The Hundred Years' War. The Hundred Years' War was a series of connected conflicts between England, the House of Plantagenet, rulers of the Kingdom of England, and the House of Valois, rulers of the Kingdom of France, over the succession to the French throne and control of land in France from 1337 to 1453. It was one of the most notable conflicts of the Middle Ages, in which 5 generations of kings from 2 rival dynasties fought for the throne of the largest kingdom in Western Europe. Historians commonly divide the war into 3 phases separated by truces: the Edwardian War, 1337–1360, the Caroline War, 1369–1389, and the Lancastrian War, 1415–1453. Local conflicts in neighboring areas, which were contemporarily related to the war, including the War of the Breton Succession, 1341–1364, the Castilian Civil War, 1366–1369, the War of the Two Peters, 1356–1369, in Aragon, and the 1383–1385 succession crisis in Portugal, were availed by the parties to advance their agendas. 2 factors lay at the origin of the conflict. First, the status of the Duchy of Guyenne, or Aquitaine. Though it belonged to the kings of England, it remained a fief of the French crown, and the kings of England wanted independent possession. Second, as the closest relatives of the last direct Capetian king, Charles IV, who had died in 1328, the kings of England from 1337 claimed the crown of France. Tensions between the English and French thrones over continental land dated to 1066 when William, Duke of Normandy, conquered England. After the Norman conquest of 1066, the kings of England were vassals of the kings of France for their possessions in France. The French kings had endeavored, over the centuries, to reduce these possessions to the effect that, roughly, only Gascony was left to the English. The confiscation or threat of confiscating this duchy had been part of French policy to check the growth of English power, particularly whenever the English were at war with the Kingdom of Scotland, an ally of France. When Edward III of England came to blows with David Bruce of Scotland in the first half of the 14th century, France supported Bruce, raising tensions. England won 2 famous victories at Crécy, 1346, and Poitiers, 1356, the second capturing the Valois French King John. With France leaderless, with large parts in rebellion and the rest plagued by mercenary armies, Edward attempted to seize Paris and Reims, perhaps for a royal coronation. He took neither but brought the Dauphin, the name for the French heir to the throne, to the negotiating table. The Treaty of Bretigny was signed in 1360 after further invasions. In return for dropping his claim on the throne, Edward won a large and independent Aquitaine, other land and a substantial sum of money. Theoretically, the French kings, possessing the financial and military resources of the most populous and powerful state in Western Europe, held the advantage over the smaller, more sparsely populated English kingdom. However, the expeditionary English army, well-disciplined and successfully using their longbows to stop cavalry charges, proved repeatedly victorious over much larger French forces. Significant victories occurred by sea at Sluys, 1340, and by land at Crécy, 1346, and Poitiers, 1356. After a hiatus, Henry V of England renewed the war and proved victorious at Agincourt, 1415, conquered Normandy, 1417–1418, and then attempted to have himself crowned as the future King of France by the Treaty of Troyes, 1420. But his military successes were not matched by political successes. Although allied with the Dukes of Burgundy, the majority of the French refused English domination. Thanks to Joan of Arc, a peasant girl arrived at the Dauphin's court claiming mystic voices had told her she was on a mission to free France from English forces. Her impact revitalized the moribund opposition, and they broke the siege around Orleans, defeated the English several times, and were able to crown the Dauphin in Reims Cathedral. Joan was captured and executed by her enemies. The French army had been reorganized and reformed. 1445–1448, Charles VII recaptured the Duchy of Normandy, the Battle of Formigny, 1450, and then seized Guyenne, the Battle of Castellon, 1453. The end of the conflict was never marked by a peace treaty, but died out because the English recognized that the French troops were too strong to be directly confronted. Charles VII had won the Battle of Formigny in 1450, and the war was effectively over. France, at last free of the English invaders, resumed its place as the dominant state of Western Europe. Some of the major results of this war were the rise of nationalism in both of France and England, the revolution in weapons used all along, and civil wars in England as a result of the lost English possessions in France.